I want to start this off with a question for you to think about.
If you've ever felt that way, you are definitely not alone. It can feel like this huge, tangled up puzzle. But what if there was a way to make sense of it all? A framework that helps us see how three key, let's call them puzzle pieces, all fit together to give us the full picture of our well-being.
So for the longest time, the main way we looked at this was through what's called the biomedical model. Basically, it viewed the body like a machine that just needed a tune-up. If something felt off, the problem had to be purely physical, right? A chemical imbalance, maybe a gene. But it's just not the whole story. Now we have a much more complete approach, the biopsychosocial model. And this one doesn't just look at the body, it zooms out to include our mind and the world we live in. It's really about seeing the whole person.
So, what is this model exactly? Well, think of it as a holistic framework for understanding our health. It was actually developed way back in 1977 by a psychiatrist named George Engel. And his whole idea was to look at the dynamic interaction, and that word is key, between our biology, our psychology, and our social world. The goal? To see the person, not just the symptoms.
All right, let's put that first piece of the puzzle down. This is the biological foundation, and it's all about this simple, undeniable fact. Our mental state is deeply, deeply connected to our physical body.
So this piece covers, the physical hardware we're working with. We're talking about genetics, which might give us certain predispositions, and all that complex brain chemistry that's happening every single second. Think about stuff like serotonin, which helps keep our mood stable. It's also about how our body handles stress, with hormones like cortisol, and even how well our immune system is doing its job. But here's the most important part. Biology is not destiny. It's just one part of the story.
Okay, so building on that biological foundation, let's add our second piece. This is the psychological piece. This is all about our inner world and the incredible power of our own mind.
So this part is all about how we think, how we feel, and how we act. It's the stories we tell ourselves, right? The core beliefs we have about the world. Like if you believe I have to be perfect, a tiny mistake can suddenly feel like a catastrophe. This piece also includes things like the coping skills we develop, our resilience, and our self-esteem. And what's so powerful about this piece is that it's something we can actively work on. We can learn new ways to cope, we can challenge those old beliefs, and we can change how we react to our feelings.
And now for our third and final piece of the puzzle. This one zooms us out, beyond just ourselves. We're talking about our social environment, and just how powerfully our world shapes who we are.
I mean, think about it. Nobody is an island, right? A solid support system of friends and family can act like a huge buffer against stress. But on the flip side, a toxic job or school environment can just drain you day in and day out. Even bigger things like your financial situation or the culture you grew up in play a massive role. This piece really drives home that our connections, our community, they aren't just nice-to-haves. They're absolutely essential to our mental health.
Okay, so we've got our three pieces on the table, the biological, the psychological, and the social. But here's where the magic really happens. The power of this model isn't just knowing the three pieces exist. It's seeing how they're constantly interacting, how they're in this dynamic cycle, influencing each other all the time.
Let's make this real. Let's walk through an example, say, with depression. It could get kicked off by a social trigger, something like losing a job. Now, that can lead to a psychological response, right? Things like negative self-talk, feeling hopeless. But then, that psychological state can trigger a real biological impact, like messing with serotonin levels or making you feel physically exhausted. And what happens when you're exhausted? It's even harder to cope psychologically. See the cycle? It's not just one thing. It's this interconnected web where everything feeds into everything else.
Okay, so understanding the theory is one thing, but what do we do with it? How does this actually help? Let's get practical. Let's talk about how you can actually put this model to work in your own life starting today. First off, you can start tracking these things for yourself. It could be as simple as keeping a note on your phone. Notice how a bad night's sleep, that's biological, changes your mood at work, which is psychological and social. Second, you can build a balanced plan. Make sure you're doing something for each piece of the puzzle. That could be exercise for your body, maybe journaling for your mind, and calling a friend for that social connection. Third, if you're looking for support, seek out help that's holistic, professionals who get the bigger picture. And finally, you can be an advocate for this fuller view. Just sharing this idea with someone can help chip away at stigma and build a more compassionate world.
I really want this to sink in. Mental health challenges are multifaceted, but so are the paths to healing. To me, that's the most hopeful part of all this. The idea that because the challenges are complex, the solutions can be too. The complexity isn't the problem, it's the opportunity. It means there isn't just one door to healing, there are many.
So, if there's one thing you take away from this, let it be this. Your well-being is a complete picture. It's not just one single piece. And when you start to see it that way, holistically, with all the moving parts, that's the first step toward a more empowered and, frankly, a more compassionate way of looking at mental health, for you and for everyone else. So, I'll leave you with a final question to chew on. How can you apply this model in your own life this week, even in a really small way? Maybe it's just noticing that connection between how much sleep you got and how you feel the next day. Or maybe it's carving out 20 minutes to catch up with a friend. Whatever it is, we'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. Thanks so much for joining me.